Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode. We have a fantastic guest for you today. I'm so excited to introduce Molly Powell. She is the founder of Pink Camel Recruitment, and she is also the founder of Pink Camel Gifts. She will have a lot to share with us, and I'm so excited to have her here. Molly, welcome.
Hi, that was some introduction, thank you.
Yes, I've been asking you for a while to please join me, and I'm so glad that you can come here and share a little bit more about yourself, about your thoughts, about your journey in life. So I just wanted to know where you're from and how did you get where you are now?
Getting straight into it, I like it. So I'm from the UK, right in the middle, called Coventry. It's near Birmingham, probably people know that a little bit more than Coventry. And the $1 million question, why Dubai? So I came here on holiday when I was younger, just a couple of times. So for me, Dubai always held really, good memories. And I had a very stable job, was very good at what I did back home in recruitment. Mm-hmm. And I think moving here, I got the opportunity, I got a job offer, and literally 2 weeks later, I was on a one-way flight to Dubai. Didn't know a single person, sold my house, all my belongings. I think everybody at the time thought it was the most ludicrous idea ever. They were like, why are you walking away? You're so good at your job. You've got all this money, you've got your house, you've got your life. But for me, I'm not one to ever stay comfortable, and I was very comfortable at the time. So I'm always one to kind of push myself and want to develop my skills and, make myself a better person, really. So for me, I saw moving to Dubai as a huge challenge, and a challenge that was. So 3.5 years later, here I am, and with 2 amazing companies and some more exciting news coming up. So super excited to be here and tell you a little bit about my story.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And when everybody tells you, don't go, stay here, you have a good life here, how did you know, or how could you explain to them that it's going to be all right?
You can't. I don't think there's anything that you can say that's going to make them feel at ease. I think, I was old enough to make my own decisions, and they just needed to trust me in the process. They always knew that I kind of didn't like to conform, and I was always kind of pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So for me, they just had to trust me, and I'm lucky that they did that, and they supported me every step of the way. But the journey wasn't an easy one. It's arguably been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. The most rewarding, of course. I think that the things that come at the highest reward are the most difficult. So it's been a learning experience for sure. But I was very lucky to have a good support system around me. None locally, but we have Zoom, we have Skype and everything. So
yeah, it's not easy when you don't know anybody and you start over and you need to prove yourself.
Yeah.
But you have proven yourself. You have 2 great companies right now. Can you tell us a little bit more about the journey? How has that been? I mean, you came here 3.5 years ago. You had nothing. You didn't know anybody. And now you have 2 companies, and you have been also involved in other companies as an investor, and you're busy with new things. So what happened in that time?
That's a great question. I think I'll start from the beginning. It's probably the easiest part for me to start. So at school, I was one of the kids that, I wasn't the best kid in the world. I was kind of really naughty, and I always got kicked out, and, just education wasn't for me, and that's fine. I don't think education is for everybody. And I was the one that was always being told, you'll never amount to anything, and you won't ever be anybody. But I always knew, don't tell me what it is, call it a sixth sense, call it something. Something was in my DNA that I was going to, be someone, I was going to be successful, and that was so deep rooted in my soul that I had to make that a reality. So for me, leaving school, I still remember the day collecting my GCSE results. My mum was crying. She was like, how are you ever going to get a job? It was a really, really sad time, but I just knew there was just a piece in me that thought, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to prove to everyone that I can do it. So I started my first job, and it was, you know, washing dishes in a pub. Wasn't the most glamorous, but yeah, I mean, I did that and worked my way up to then becoming a waitress. And it all sounds so trivial now, right? But at the time, it was a really huge thing, like getting promotion, your first promotion out of school. And yeah, worked behind a bar, and I would work double, triple shifts, you know, trying to get as much money as I could. And then I kind of got my first proper job, and my first proper job, we call it proper job, so it's the first job out of high school, right, that's full-time. And I posted an ad on Gumtree, which here is kind of similar to Dubizzle. And I went, hi, I'm Molly, I'm looking for a job. Like, I was, you know, 17 years old at the time, so I didn't know what else to do. LinkedIn wasn't a thing back then, so I got headhunted for this job in this hotel, and it was selling wedding and events. And for me, I'd always dreamt of weddings, and it was just my dream job. And I just remember, you know, organising other people's weddings, and everything was just amazing. So yeah, got that job, worked in it for a couple of years, really worked hard, proved myself. I think that's something that's always been installed in me, is working hard, working as hard as I possibly can, always with something to prove. I don't know whether that's to myself, to my old teachers, to my family, who knows. But yeah, working hard, and then got promoted from coordinator to supervisor to manager. And 4 years later, I was, you know, 20 years old and managing a hotel of nearly 200 people. So I was the youngest person in the company, and I was the boss, and that came with some challenges. So then when I finally got to the top of my career in hospitality, I thought, you know, well, what next? Again, never want to be in comfort zones. I thought, okay, well, what's another challenge that I can face? What's another thing that I can do to improve myself and to learn and to grow? And my friend at the time owned a recruitment company, and, you know, he was the one that was driving the Lamborghinis, and, you know, had this amazing life, and someone that I really aspired to be, and someone that I really looked up to. So yeah, left my job in hospitality, was earning, you know, good money, and then started all over again within recruitment. Earning, I don't know, just whatever minimum wage back then, 10 years ago was. And then, yeah, my job in recruitment started, and I was the only female in the company. And I remember on my first month or something, we had top biller, and whatever your sales were, whoever had the highest sales was the top biller of the company. And I was kind of picked on for being the only girl and going, oh, you know, you're not going to be any good at this, because it's a very male-dominated environment, especially within kind of technology. And I remember saying to them, I'm going to be top biller, you know, next year, you watch this space. And they all laughed at me going, oh, come on, you know, shut up. And then as soon as they saw me, I was coming into the office at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was not leaving until 10, 11 o'clock at night. I would come in every single weekend. I was working 100, sometimes 110 hours a week to prove myself. And then, yeah, next year I was top biller in my company, and they all had to eat their words. So that was a really satisfying feeling. And then, yeah, top biller came, and then the second year top biller again, and then third year top biller again. And then again, I got to the top, and I was earning, you know, money that some people only could have dreamed of. And then, yeah, walked away from it all again to start again. I think there's a pattern here. Like, and then joined an agency here in Dubai. And shortly after, obviously, COVID happened, and they made everybody redundant, and then joined another agency. And I could just see some mistakes that I guess other companies that were making that I probably wouldn't do. And, you know, I would run my company probably a little bit differently to how that company was being run. And yeah, it was kind of, I was forced to either go back to the UK because I didn't really agree with how agencies were being run out here, or set up on my own. And for me, going back to the UK was failing. So failure just wasn't an option. So yeah, Pink Camel Recruitment was launched, and that was just over 2 years ago now, and the time has flown. But I still remember, like, I've been very lucky. Katie's been with me since day one. She's now our recruitment manager, and she's my right-hand person. And me and Katie used to work from my living room at the time in this tiny little living room, and we crammed 2 desks in. I still remember the feeling the day before we were launching, and it was the scariest but the most exciting feeling. Like, you know, you feel like, oh my goodness, is this going to work out? And we were very much of the perception, okay, we'll give it a go, and if it doesn't work out, at least we've tried. But I know, like, I'm very stubborn and I'm very resentful. So I know that if I'm going to put my mind to something, I'm going to make it happen and make it a reality. So yeah, we launched and here we are talking about it.
Yeah, that's one great journey to be in, and it's still ongoing.
Still ongoing, yeah. It's always going to be ongoing. There's always room for improvement. We are, like, people see us as some of the leaders in the industry, which is amazing. We've won various different awards, and I'm so proud of my team, where we are. This isn't just on me, you know, this isn't just a one-person band. This is, you know, the realization of my team's efforts, and yeah, us just working together, and we're just like a little family. It's great. It's really good.
Yeah, I remember a story you shared on LinkedIn where you were going out and then somebody approached you at the beach, I believe, and just wanted to say something nice about what you were doing.
I know. I can actually get really emotional.
Yeah, it's all right.
Because I think deep down, I think it's, I like to help people.
Yeah.
I really like to help people, and I don't know whether that's the reason that I'm in recruitment, is to help people, whether that be get their dream job or get back into work, or, you know, we help a lot of companies with gender diversification or getting more women into the workplace. But just helping people is so important, and I think, you know, I've created a platform where I do have the ability to help people, and I think people recognise that. When people acknowledge that, and I'm out in the street, and it will happen more frequently than I'd like to admit, and it's just so overwhelming to me when they go, you know, I follow you on LinkedIn, or, you know, I've been following your journey for a while, and what you're doing is so incredible. And that for me is what I've done it for. Forget about the financial, forget about anything like that. For me, being able to help people and just, yeah, it is just so much more, so much more.
Yeah, and you're making an impact, right? Because you're giving people the opportunity to get a job, and not just a job, often a better job, or like you said, to get back into the field. And also, can you share a little bit more about the program that you have, where you allow the unheard people to get to post their video or their picture, their CV, and then that gets exposure as well?
Yeah, there's actually a story that's quite relevant to that question, and I'm not going to name his name because I don't want him to get embarrassed, but I was driving down the street, and it was this time last year, so it was the peak of summer. It was 40 degrees in Dubai, and there was this guy at the side of the road, and he was holding up a piece of paper saying that he was out of work, looking for work, and with his contact number. And I just pulled over to the side of the road, and I'm just one of these people that if I see someone in need, or you know, it was the middle of the day, it was so hot. So I pulled over, first of all to ask if he wanted any water, and then second of all to understand his story. And it turns out that he'd came over for a job, and then COVID happened, lost his job. Like many people, he was an expat in the country that was supporting his family back home. And he'd lost his job, and, you know, he had no job now for over 6 months, had no income. And, you know, he wasn't the most experienced person in the world, but his attitude, like the skill set that he did have was so transferable into so many different roles. But there was just no one giving him a chance. So he was having to resort to going on the streets because he didn't have a computer, he couldn't afford it, he didn't have internet, you know, he was getting kicked out of his accommodation. So I agreed to meet up with him later that day and, you know, buy him some, you know, clothes that he could go to interviews in, and buy him some food because he told me he hadn't had a hot meal. Just trying to give back to somebody that was clearly in need. But anyway, the reason that I'm saying this is because what happened then was incredible. So took a picture of this guy with his permission, posted it on LinkedIn. And the LinkedIn community fully supported, and I think the picture had over 70,000 likes. He had like over 20,000 comments of people trying to help and share with the community. And then after that, he rang me going, he had 10 job interviews the next day. So he was like, what am I going to do? So I prepped him for all his interviews, had an interview, and then 2 days later, he had a new job. And I cannot tell you, obviously there was no fee attached to the placement, but that is the best hire that I've ever made. You know, when something makes your heart feel warm, it just made my heart feel warm, and it made me think, I'm doing the right thing. That was the right thing to do. But just being able to help people, not necessarily that are working to get their dream jobs, but people that are outside of work. So we're partnered with one of the leading banks here who have a returning to work scheme. So they have a whole scheme dedicated to people that have been out of work for 6 to 12 months or longer that want to get back into work, whether that be mums or dads that have come back from maternity or paternity leave. So just getting those people returning back into the workforce. So being able to be a part of that and give other people a platform to get a job and support their family and themselves is incredible. It's a really nice feeling.
Absolutely, and you continued that program, right? Where you would post people's story that really were not able to normally get exposure.
Well, if something works for one person, it's going to work for other people. And whilst, you know, you don't want to flood people's news feeds, I'm very conscious that people don't want to see 10, 20 posts a day of this, you know. I try to give as many people a platform and a voice as possible without it being frustrating for other people, because I appreciate that not everybody wants to see that. But as much as I can, within reason, yeah.
Yeah. And also, during your journey, you explained as well that there was always this feeling inside that you will be all right. And this is maybe this is a little bit like a self-confidence or self-belief. How can you build that up, or is that just in you?
I think a lot of it comes down to your environment. So my dad was an entrepreneur. It was in roofing, but he was still an entrepreneur. He worked really hard. Same with my mum. You know, she was a single parent bringing me up. So I had around me really strong role models. But even before that, there was just something, I can't explain it, it's just something inside me, it's something in my DNA. When I was at school, everybody else wanted to be footballers or singers or models or whatever it may be. I was the one going, well, I'm going to have my own business at 10 years old. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. And then since then, always pushing myself, always wanting to do more, whether that be in business, my personal life, always wanting to grow as a person, but helping as many people as you can, because the worst thing that you want to do is grow and develop yourself and not help other people around you. But still also remaining humble and thankful for what you have achieved and what you have in life. You know, we're very lucky. We're very blessed to be able to sit here looking out at this amazing view and living in an amazing country and being around, you know, all of this. We're very lucky. So other people aren't so lucky. So if we can, you know, help anyone else in the process, then I think that's just a nice thing to do.
Absolutely. And I actually had a conversation with a client of mine some time back about this topic specifically. He said that he contributes a lot of his success to giving back and giving. And then he told me some stories about what he did, and he gave his like sister-in-law like a new car. It's like, I'm like, okay, there's giving and there's giving, you know? No,
he gave me a new car.
Yeah, he said, but he was so happy with it. He's like, oh, I'm so happy, and she's so happy every time she sees me. He just lightened up completely. And he was not as happy when he said that he bought some things, some items, similar values. And I could see that from him. That really made him happy. But at the same time, I think you're only able to be in a position to help people if you yourself are, to a certain degree, successful and comfortable. Is that correct?
100%. You've got to have the means in order to give back. Or even if you don't have the means, even just time. You know, just time is all you need sometimes. But I think there's definitely something in giving rather than just taking it for yourself. Like, it's so much, like you said about your client, it's so much better to give to someone else rather than give to yourself. You know, at holidays, you know, giving presents feels so much better than receiving presents. So I think that's definitely true.
Yeah, that's something that I want to talk a little bit more about your company. The name is Pink Camo Recruitment. So how did you come up with pink? I clearly see you like pink, right?
Yeah,
pink
of course.
Is something
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Pink is my favourite colour, obviously. I'm wearing a pink shirt today. But other than that, the name. I had a 25-page business plan. I knew exactly what Pink Camel was going to be. I knew what it was going to represent. I knew the strategy. I knew where we were going to take this. I could see it so clearly, but what I couldn't see was the name. But I'm not joking, Simon. For months, I was going, right, okay, so it's going to be, and I always had Pink Camel in the back of my head, but I thought at the time, I was like, no, something like Pink Camel, but not Pink Camel. And I just remember going to everyone, something like Pink Camel, but not Pink Camel. And even like strangers, I'll go, okay, I'm setting up a business. I think of names, and we'd kind of just spitball the names.
Yeah.
And then there's a company back in the UK called Cranberry Panda, and that for me always stood out. I thought it was marketable, I thought it was funny. So I wanted something similar to that, and I'd go from like Purple Pig to, you know, all of these different brands and different names and different ideas. And in the end, Pink Camel just became so apparent because, one, obviously we're female only. We're not only female owned, but the whole of Pink Camel is fully female. A big part of our USP and selling point is that we help companies with gender diversification, especially within technology and IT. I think there's a definite gender gap when it comes to technology, especially in the Middle East. So yeah, that's the big USP that we have. And I think just tying that into the name was really important. So Pink, obviously for what I've just said, and then Camel because, you know, we're in the middle of the desert and we are based here. And I think it was something that stuck out and people would remember. It's not something you come across every day.
Yeah, definitely. When I saw it for the first time, it just sticked somehow. You're like, it's like Camel is relatable to the region, but then Pink, you're like, why Pink?
Why the two things?
Why there's no Pink Camel, and because of that, you're kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, but you should see our office. It's just like a little girl's dream. It's just completely pink, pink chairs. We've got a big pink camel in the office. So pink camels don't exist to you, but for us, they very much exist, and they're all in our office. So
if somebody passes by, they're looking for your office, but they don't know exactly. They're like, just look for the pink one.
Out of the window. Just look for the pinkest office.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just feminine, and I think it stands for, yeah, what I believe in.
It's good to have something that you that you feel like you can relate to it, and it symbols more than that, just the name. And you also have now another company that is into gifts. Can you maybe explain a little bit more about that? How did that come out of the...
So we obviously expanded the Pink Camel family, keeping the same name, Pink Camel Gifts. We launched about 6 months ago. And the reason that I launched it, I'm not into e-commerce. I've been in recruitment for 10 years. I know recruitment through and through. E-commerce isn't my bag, but I saw a huge gap in the market with something as simple as a pen. So if you could believe, all I wanted was a nice, high quality pen with my name on it that wasn't black, silver or blue. You know, I wanted something feminine that spoke to my... Anyway, so a nice quality pen is all I wanted. Could you believe it didn't exist? Searched high and low for just a good quality pen, did not exist. And out of sheer frustration of this simple product not existing, I then worked with my co-founder Dia, who's been in fashion and buying for over a decade now. And we developed, you know, the simplest but most high quality pen and stationery products to tie into that. And then we've expanded our product line, and things are going really well. So essentially we are a personalized gifting company for women, not only in the Middle East, but we do global shipping as well. So again, tying into that female narrative.
Yes, yeah, and seeing a gap in the market.
And seeing a gap in the market and wanting to buy the products. I mean, I give all of my friends and family all of our products, and they're like, oh my goodness, this is so good. Why has no one come up with this before? And it seems so simple. It's just a pen. It's just a high quality pen. But yeah, I needed that. And I'm sure if I need it, then other people need it. So there was a huge gap in the market.
Yeah, and do you feel with technology that there's, like you talked a little bit about it more and more, bridging the gap, creating more of a representation in the technology sector, not only male positions are filled up by males, because you know, when they do a replacement, they already had somebody with a certain profile. I saw, for example, that even in the US they have a low penetration of females in the tech sector. Can you maybe explain to our audience a little bit more about what's going on and how the scenario is right now and what can be done to help to improve that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's always been a huge gender gap when it comes to technology globally. This is just, you know, a common piece of information. I think it's more so in the Middle East because, it's just so male dominated here in the Middle East. And I think I didn't realize that until coming. And we did, you know, a number of placements in my old agency and none of them were female. And I thought, well, what's going on? And I know that nationalisation to the Middle East have become huge, especially in Saudi with Saudiisation and then Emirati hiring here in the UAE. And it was great that nationalisation piece was being pushed, for sure. But I felt like there should be more on the gender piece as well. And then the more and more I was talking to companies and clients, I think that they were confirming, you know, that they didn't have enough women, especially within senior positions. So out of that conversation grew, obviously, us supporting with gender diversification and getting more women into the workplace. Not necessarily that are already based here in the Middle East. Of course, that would be our preference, but there just aren't enough women in technology here in the Middle East. So a lot of it, we help, you know, relocate people and women from overseas to relocate in, to just help close that gap as much as we can. I mean, we're only a small agency in the grand scheme of things, so we can only help so much. But it's great that we are being able to work with huge global organisations on such an important topic on both nationalisation and gender diversification. So any sort of diversification, I think, is becoming more and more important to companies, not only here locally but also globally.
Yes. And that also opens the door to look at more profiles, right? When there's so much competition going on, and you know, a company only has a certain profile in mind, but maybe the perfect fit is, you know, it's just looking a little bit different.
Yeah,
but it's the perfect fit.
The perfect fit, from what the clients see and what the clients say, is never the perfect fit of who it is that they end up hiring. So we try and give the client, we take the client's wish list, of course, and then we go to market and we lean heavily on our database. So we've got over 250,000 candidates in our database globally. So we tend to give them a mixture of, you know, the wish list and things that are outside their wish list, and we always try and put women in. So we've got a mixture of both men and women. And it's always funny what they end up hiring. I guess it's pretty much like who you envision yourself marrying is never really the sort of person that you end up marrying. And it's the same within recruitment and who companies are hiring as well. So I think you've just got to see the options, but a lot of the time you don't know what it is that you're looking for until it's right there in front of you in an interview. So we kind of help the companies decide what it is they actually need, whilst listening obviously to their needs, wants and desires. Yes,
and I think if people are less biased maybe as well and more objective, they will give people a chance to pitch themselves or to present themselves.
Yeah.
You will see that the person that is having that drive and that good representation, that's the person you want. And I tend to see, I'm also going through processes with interns and stuff like this. Just the guys are a little bit timid and the girls are so driven and so like prepared, and I'm like, whoa, you know. And I see a lot of that. Like for me, it's more about the drive, about the motivation. A lot of things you can learn, but you cannot learn the intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, for sure. But we're so lucky in the Middle East that we can hire any nationality from anywhere in the world. You know, before when we were hiring in the UK and Europe, you were limited to those specific nationalities. In the UK, you can't hire anybody that's not British or doesn't have a valid visa. So you have a very, very small talent pool, whereas here it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
You know, not only is Dubai an amazing place to live, or the UAE is an amazing place to live, and everybody wants to live here, you know, for various different reasons, but anybody can also work here. So as a recruitment company, it gives us so many other options that we wouldn't have anywhere else in the world. So you just think anybody could work here, anybody can get a visa, any nationalities can have an opportunity to relocate.
Yeah, yeah. I was just having a discussion with somebody about that recently, and for us it just seems so normal because we are here and we experience this from day to day. But maybe for people that are listening outside of this region, how is it possible that people can get a job here while they don't live here and things can be arranged? Because, for example, in the UK or in the Netherlands where I'm from, it's not possible to just do that. But why is it possible here that people that apply for jobs can actually get a job and start?
So everybody has to have a visa here in the UAE. So visas can be given to anybody of any nationality. Whereas like you said, in the Netherlands or the UK, you can get a visa, but it has to be, you know, it's really, really difficult to get a visa. It has to be a special skill set and everything like that. Here that doesn't exist. As long as you have a company or an employer that's willing to sponsor a visa, then it's fine. You know, legally you have to have a visa to work here because you have to have medical insurance and you can't get a visa without medical insurance. So the UAE offers visas to any nationality of any skill set. So, you know, we have literally unlimited possibilities for hiring.
Yeah, that's great. While you have a lot of possibilities, you must have faced also some challenges on the way. What have been, in your view, some of the biggest challenges that you faced in your journey so far?
Are we talking about in recruitment or just in general?
It's an open question, so you're free to pick out what you...
I guess I'll answer both. So within recruitment, I guess the biggest challenge of having an unlimited talent pool is that you have an unlimited talent pool. So, you know, your searches take a lot longer than it would in the UK because not only can we search here, but we can search globally. So for us, it's a, you know, just an elongated process, but it's fine. I guess on the side of recruitment, we have every single post that we do, we receive over 10,000 job applications. So sometimes we'll have a client come to us and say, well, why am I going to pay for recruitment services? Why am I going to not just post a job on LinkedIn? Well, I'll give you one reason why. Because you will receive thousands of applications that you then have to sift and go through. So a lot of our talent hiring, we don't actually post jobs. We headhunt because we understand that the best people aren't necessarily always the ones applying. So we actively have that approach as well. And then I guess on a personal side, I guess the biggest challenge throughout this journey has definitely been having to leave everything behind in the UK, start afresh, move to a country, not only where I didn't know anyone, not only was it a new country, but it was a new continent, but we then went into a global pandemic. So I guess 2020 was a pretty tough year, like it was for most people. So January 2020, moved to Dubai. March 2020, the company that I was working for made redundancies because, you know, it was COVID. A lot of companies did make redundancies. And then obviously lockdown happened. So not only did I move to a new country, a new continent, didn't know a single person, I had no job, no visa, no healthcare. I was in a shoebox in an apartment that was room for a bed and that was it. And it was then I really started questioning my sanity and thinking, what have I done? You know, there was the time when permits were a thing and we weren't allowed to leave without a permit. And I remember getting fined because I did leave without a permit because I needed to walk and I couldn't walk in my apartment. But 2020 was, as I guess it was for most people, but it was the hardest year. The hardest year. I'm not going to cry about it because I'm over it and it makes you a stronger person. And there's so much that I learned in that year. And I grew so much as a person. Even a year later when I was finally able to go back to the UK and see friends and family, they'd go, Molly, you've really changed. Like, you've really grown up. And it's because I had to. Like, it was either sit there and cry or just get on with it and get a new job and, you know, work from the ground up to make it a success and make it happen. And, you know, COVID was a horrible thing, but you know, I don't regret going through that period because I think with dark times comes happier times and then growth at the end of it as well.
Yes, and clearly something good came out of that.
Yeah.
And also maybe the realization at that point, like, okay, why am I in this situation and what can I do to actually avoid if something, no matter what happens, I don't want to be in this situation anymore. What do I need to do?
Definitely. So that's one thing I've definitely taken into my businesses now is keeping lean for many reasons really. One, to prioritise the employees that we do have and make sure that they're looked after, whether that be on the financial side or just from the career development side. But also if we were to go through anything like that again, I don't want to have to make redundancies. I've been at the other end of that. I know how difficult that was. I know that people support families, whether that be locally or back home, and have bills to pay. So I never want to be in a position where I'm having to make people redundant. And let's face it, the market is still quite unstable. You know, people like Google and Microsoft, they're on hiring freezes right now. I mean, luckily we're busier than ever, which is fantastic, but you never know if another COVID or another pandemic is around the corner. And I think so many other companies are focused on growth and hiring, and that's amazing if that's what your priority is, but it will never be my priority. I don't see that as a priority. As long as we're doing a good job for both our candidates, our clients, looking after everybody, our staff are, feeling good and they're looked after, then that for me, I'm doing a good job and nothing else matters.
Yeah, and also if you have a small team but a very good team, you can actually be more productive than a bigger team, and you don't have mediocrity is more of a standard.
Yeah, I would rather have 6 A players that I have now than have 20 A, B and C players, because why would you want that? I would rather have a superstar team where, we're all high performing, and the energy, I think it's quite, you bounce up other people's energy, and if one person's doing well, then somebody else is doing well. And I'd much rather that than, like you said, mediocrity.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said as well, the energy, that's so, like sometimes you might have a little dip, but then you see like somebody else is bouncing, you're like, wow, yes, I can pick myself up so easy 100%. On that. And again, or other people can look up to you and say, wow, you're smashing it, and I can do it as well. I can go for it as well. Yeah.
But my girls are so competitive with each other. Yeah. I mean, they really care about each other and want each other to succeed, but in the same respect, they want to be the top person and the top performer. So we have a little bell in the office, so when anyone does a deal, they ring the bell, and they always want to ring that bell, of course, because that earns, means commission and means money. But they're always going against each other, and they're always working hard to make sure they're the top performers, and that's what you want within a sales environment. So that's how I was like when I was in their shoes. So I'm glad that I guess I've either trained them well or I've hired the right people, but they're also, they remind me of me, and that's what makes me really proud.
But healthy competition is good in the sense that you can laugh with each other afterwards, you can have a good time. There's no bad intention behind it. It just helps often people to accelerate just a little bit further.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a colleague in my office, and I don't know why, but this year every week he comes to me and he just picked some competition with me, and he's like, "How are you doing? I'm going to catch you up, and I'm like, I'm not in a race with you. You're in a race with me." But in the end, it does.
But do you not want to kind of go back and do you not feel like you want to beat them? Are you not competitive?
Of course, he's not going to overtake me.
Just so.
Yes, but I was like at one point, like, it's not going to happen, okay? But and in the end he said, look, I'm just helping you. You don't realize it, you will realize it later.
Yeah. I think healthy competition is important for sure. And even sometimes when it's not very often I get to recruit anymore, which is funny considering I'm a recruitment company, but when I do recruit, I'm like, I have to get the CVs out immediately. Yeah. And I haven't got time to do it now in my actual working day. So that's what my weekends and evenings are for. And I remember that I will not put the phone down until I've got the shortlist to this client, and I will fill that position quicker than anyone else. So even now, even though I have my team and they're amazing, I still have some competition.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good, and you feel like, okay, what can I do to make something happen?
Yeah.
To move the needle, and that thought is very positive to have.
Mm-hmm. I also think you've got to set an example.
Yeah.
So imagine if you were working for somebody and they were asking you to work really, really hard and, send CVs as quickly as possible, good quality CVs, of course, but, quickly and of a good quality. And imagine that you were working for someone that didn't do the same, or they were just sat doing nothing, or they had this job that they couldn't fill. What kind of example does that set? So
I believe you command respect because of your presence. And it's not because of your title.
100%.
And I know some people think that might be the place, the way that it happens, but even if people don't speak up, they still think it. Mm-hmm. So it's good that you're able to set that example yourself, be that role model, have done it, gone through all of it. You can do it if you want, but now you're probably more focused on bringing the clients in so that the jobs are there for the team. So
Yeah, Katie always laughs because she says, "You're front office, I'm
Yeah.
back office." So what she means by that is I go out and speak to all the clients and
Yeah.
get them onboarded, and then her and her team will resource the positions. So she
Yeah.
always goes, you know, if we're introducing to a new client, "Hi, I'm back office, I'm Katie," and
Yeah.
she's brilliant at what she does, but it just makes me laugh. But yeah, you definitely have to lead by example.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it definitely helps that I have been there, I've done that, got the t-shirt, I've started from the ground up, worked, you know, to where I am now, and having worked in every single position imaginable within recruitment, I think definitely helps, and it helps me be able to give the girls what I think they need and what I would have wanted if I was in their position. And I think that's the kind of reason that we have the retention rate that we have, which is 100%, just putting it out there. But yeah, just being able to give the girls things that I wish another company had given me is important and is valuable.
And if you give people what they're looking for and what they want and what they need, what makes them want to leave?
Yeah. So the grass is never greener. People always think the grass is greener. The reality of it is 9 times out of 10 it isn't. And for me, as I said before previously, too many companies are focused on growth, and that is just the wrong thing to be focused on, because if you haven't got retention, then how are you going to be able to grow? But there are so many of our competitors and companies that I've worked for in the past that they just focus on the amount of people they've got working in the business and not about actually caring and looking after their employees. Like, we could quite easily at Print Camel hire another 10 people if we wanted to, but I need to make sure that my team are looked after and they are getting what they deserve, you know, financially and within career growth and development and everything like that. So their happiness to me is more important than my happiness as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, if you're happy in a job and you're getting everything you need, why would you leave? I guess in Dubai, the only risk that we have is if someone wants to relocate, which is quite common, but other than that, I guess there isn't.
Right, could still mean that they could still be part of the team.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we're very remote first, even though we have our pink office, of course. We're just about to do 6 weeks working remotely because it's the summer, and let's face it, who wants to come into the office when it's 50 degrees outside? So I know Katie's going off to Bali, and a couple of the other girls are going off to other locations, whether it be the UK, back to their home countries or wherever. So we definitely have flexibility. And, you know, I'm not one to be in the office 9 to 6, 5 days a week. I think it can be really demotivating. So we're hybrid. Yeah, we work from home, work remote, because recruitment is a hard job. You do have to work long hours. Yeah. Quite frequently, when we're working in America, for example, we have to work within those time zones. So the girls are working evenings, weekends to get shortlist out. So, you know, I'm not one of these people that say you have to be in from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, whatever it may be. The girls have complete flexibility on their own desk because, one, we have that trust there, and two, you know, I know how hard they work, and let's face it, they're working for commission. So if they're not working, they're not going to be earning commission, and no one would work in a sales job, or especially recruitment, without, you know, wanting that commission check at the end of the month.
Yeah, exactly, and you get actually rewarded for your hard work in a fair way.
Yeah.
That's a nice part, but you know, the other side of the coin is that no result means also no payment.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd have to say that the best part of what I do isn't being a boss. It's not, you know, having my own business. Well, I guess it kind of ties in with that, but the best thing for me is being able to build something where not only do other people want to come into work, but I actually want to come into work. I genuinely look forward to coming into work every single day. Yeah. I look forward to our morning calls. I look forward to speaking with the girls about what they're up to, professionally and personally, because we are, you know, very close-knit. We're like a little family, a dysfunctional family, but a family nevertheless. And just creating an environment that other people want to come into, and I genuinely want to come into work. That is why I did this. That is happiness to me. So,
and that is so important, right? You wake up and you know, you can almost not wait to start.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, the alarm goes off, I need to wake up, I need to go to the office.
Is there any worse feeling of that, or the Sunday fear? We used to have it before, Sunday fear of just going into the office on a Monday, or back then it was Saturday when we worked Sunday to Thursday. And there's that fear of going into the office and what we were going to go into, and, you know, not being busy or being too busy and having no support. So yeah, to be somewhere, and the girls always come in to work early. They're always in early. They always leave late, even though I go, go home, go work from home. They want to be in the office, and I think the difference of a high-performing team and not is that very sentiment. Do they want to come in? Great, 9 times out of 10 they'll be high-performing. If you don't want to come in, you're not going to be performing, and that's going to be reflected. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's also has to do with the environment you're bouncing off also on other people. You're in a professional setting, and you're there for business.
Yeah. There for business, but also let's make it fun.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, we're in sales, so let's make it as fun as we possibly can, while still remaining professional. I'm just going to point out that's also super important. But we have fun. Like it's like working with your friends, working with your family. Yeah. And it's enjoyable.
That's good. So Molly, you have quite a lot of followers on LinkedIn. You have personally on your own account almost 100,000. And for your company's account, you have now reached the milestone of more than 120,000 followers. Yeah. So congratulations on that.
Thanks.
And how did you do it?
Yeah, is it weird that I got jealous when my company overtook my personal LinkedIn followers? No, obviously it's good. Pink Camel and me are basically the same anyway. So yeah, great question. And I think that I deserve dividends in LinkedIn, the amount of time that I spend talking about it. I think it is the most important platform that you can use for business. I think using the correct way, it can open up so many doors, it can generate so much revenue. I do 100% of my business on LinkedIn, whether it be clients, candidates, everything in between, everything is on this one platform. So I get really annoyed when people say they're not using it, or they have a profile and they haven't, used it for a while. So I'm like, why would you not use this amazing tool? So back when I first started recruitment, it was quite old school. I mean, it was over 10 years ago. LinkedIn really didn't exist back then. Not a lot of people were using it. And we were targeted by not only the amount of CVs that we sent, but the amount of call time that we did and the amount of outgoing calls. So we had a screen on the board, and it basically showed how many calls we'd made that day, how long we'd been on the phone for. So your days were basically ringing through job boards. And if you don't know what a job board is, it's like Indeed, or here we have Nakuri Golf, Golf Talent, where people upload their CVs onto a portal. So we would be those annoying people ringing through, going, hi, got a job, are you interested? But we were calling between 9 and 6 when people are at work. You're not going to answer and talk about a new job when you're working. So our jobs were literally ringing, leaving voicemails, putting the phone down. That was what I did for 3 months of my life, until I thought and started questioning myself again, going, this can't be it. There's got to be a smarter way to work. So I started talking to the team and going, does anyone use LinkedIn? Everyone was like, well, what's LinkedIn? Never even heard of it, some of them. So created a profile and thought, right, well, let's see if I can do this. So I worked with a client that had quite often a lot of the same roles. So I went, okay, I know that this particular client hires a project manager. I'm going to start connecting with project managers. So when a new job brief comes in, I can do the calls off the job boards, which of what I've been doing. But I also have a network here of people that, it's much easier to send a message on your phone than it is to pick up a call during working hours. So I started doing that, and then my boss at the time would tell me off. He would go, I'm wasting my time on LinkedIn, what are you doing? You should be calling, having a go at me because my call time wasn't there. He didn't care at the fact that no one answered the phone and I wasn't getting any CVs out. Back then it would take us 2-3 months to fill a job because, it just took us that long to get hold of candidates. It was really hard to access talent back then. So I started using LinkedIn, and he told me off for doing it during working hours, so I'd do it on my evenings and weekends and started building my network, and won an award for the quickest placement ever. I had a project manager role come in. I was connected to 100 project managers, sent them all a message, and did my first placement in 3 days, which 10 years ago was just unheard of. So I think then it really clicked in their heads to go, okay, they didn't let me use LinkedIn still during working hours. I still had to do that in evenings and weekends.
Which is unheard of right now, right?
Yeah, but I started to show them that it was something that could work and I wasn't wasting my own time. And then as soon as I did the 4th or 5th placement within a week, then they were like, okay, you can just continue doing that. And then when I was doing it, I would train the other girls and other people in the office of how to do it. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. It was connecting with people. It was posting regularly. It was trying to build a brand, I guess, not only a brand for the company I was working at, but also a personal brand. And yeah, from then it just snowballed. I think my first post went viral, had 20 million likes or something, which I was like, oh my goodness, watching it every second going, oh wow, it's got all of these likes. And I would tell my mum, and my mum was like, oh, what's LinkedIn? I was like, oh, it doesn't matter, but look. So that was a really amazing feeling. And then a lot of people don't know this, but you actually have a cap on the number of connections that you can have. So you don't have a cap on the number of followers. You can have a cap on number of connections, which is 30,000. And people think that's a lot, but when you're using it and you're connecting with people, and LinkedIn Recruiter didn't exist, so you happen to connect with people, that connection limit, you reach that pretty quickly. So when I relocated from the UK to the Middle East, I had tapped out my connection limit, but obviously they weren't relevant connections to my new market. So I had a profile with 60,000 followers on and all of these lovely recommendations, and had to kind of scrap that to then start again so I could start connecting with people again. So then had to start all from square one, not only in my career, but on my LinkedIn. I didn't even have a network to fall back to that I was utilizing before. So it really was like having to start, not even from square one, it was like -5. So I had to build it all over again. But the good thing is that I built it quicker and stronger than ever. So it wasn't just a fluke that I did it back then. It wasn't just one viral post, it's something that I can actually do. And using LinkedIn effectively was the reason that I became top biller, for all those years in a row, because, I was doing something that no one else was. I was good at my job, yeah, but I was also doing something different. And I've taken that very much into Pink Camel recruitment. I'm always on about the girls posting, but it has to feel natural. I don't think there's any point of putting something out there if you don't want to post it. So I'm always posting on LinkedIn, and just not only posting, if we're hiring or jobs or something like that, but posting trying to help people, posting personal stuff, but with the fine line that it's not Instagram or Facebook. So, LinkedIn is a social network for professional purposes. And it's not Instagram or Facebook. I think there is some people out there that do get that wrong, but there is a fine line. So yeah, just building a brand, building a following base, and now, nearly 100,000 on my personal one, which is amazing. But it's where I do 100% of my business. So if you're not using LinkedIn, use LinkedIn. It is just the best tool that we have access to, and it's free.
Yeah.
But I love your LinkedIn presence. I think you're a fellow LinkedIn advocate from what I see.
Absolutely. I'm still far away from where you are, but definitely I've been on LinkedIn now for some time, and this is how we connected as well.
It was, yeah. Do it was something as simple as just typing in investments, and I was like, let's see if I can find anybody, and you were number one, and your name stood out because it's so unusual. And then I know when I've made referrals to my friends and family and I've said your name, they said, oh, that sounds like a TV character. It's memorable though, isn't it? And then your name stood out, and then I contacted you, and then the rest is history. And then I guess we're here.
Yeah, we're here
today.
And there's so much that can happen, and so many people you can see and exposure, but also so much people cannot be seen. But I guess through LinkedIn you can target them very well, and for example, reaching the people that are in good jobs but are not actively recruiting, which is so important for your field, for example. Yeah,
definitely. We use LinkedIn every way to onboard new clients, to contact new hiring managers, to access talent. So it's crucial in every single element. And I went to LinkedIn offices the other day because we won an award. And their offices, by the way, are very Google-esque. They're very cool. And I said to my account manager, I said, Rami, you've got to up this connection limit. I said, it's killing me.
Yeah.
And he went, just don't get to 30,000. I said, but when you're using it properly, and when you're connecting, he said, well, you should only be connecting with people that you know. And I don't really agree with that, because it is social networking. It's not your Facebook and your Instagram where you are just friends with, with friends and family. LinkedIn is completely different. And whilst I don't agree with spamming, I do agree with networking. And, I constantly meet people for coffees and everything that, I'm not necessarily doing business with, but I've met on LinkedIn, and I think there's some connection there. So I think LinkedIn is so much more than that.
Yes. I mean, they have a nice office. I was there also some years back, and It's just that at the same time they changed when they got bought by Microsoft. And there was much more possible before that time, and Microsoft is put in their system in it. They're very good at tracking, for example, if you use bots and stuff like this.
They are, yeah. But the algorithms, you just have to understand how their algorithms work. Because Katie, she posted for the first time in quite a while the other day, and it was a really good post. And it only got like three or four likes, I think. Yeah. And like I'll do a post and I'll get hundreds of likes, sometimes thousands. And she's like, well, why do you get all of this? Because she's got a good following base as well. Yeah. But the LinkedIn algorithm works that if you're not posting regularly, then your content is pushed down to the bottom. So you'll find that somebody who's posting frequently, you're seeing it at the top of your page, not only obviously because they're posting more frequently, but the LinkedIn algorithm likes it when you're posting more often. So it'll push your content to the top. Obviously creating more exposure for your post, your page, your brand, whatever you're building.
Yeah, there's definitely a secret formula there where certain people get more attention than others.
Yeah, I asked for some insider info on that. He wouldn't give it to me.
Yeah.
So how does it work? And he was like, no, can't tell you. I was like, is it to do with posting? He went, maybe. But yeah, just from what I've seen, it is definitely to do with posting. And it's also to do with how full your LinkedIn page is. So if you're missing off any information, like if you don't have skills or endorsements on your profile, or you don't have a bio, or you haven't got your full work history, your profile is also going to be ranked down. So it's all about playing with the algorithm and making sure that you've got enough content in your LinkedIn. But for any job seeker out there, your LinkedIn should be a complete representation of your CV. So anything that you'd have in your CV, you would then put in your LinkedIn profile. I think it will kind of, in a way, make CVs obsolete one day, but until then, the two should be the same.
And I think it's also, it can be a great tool to showcase yourself. And if you utilize it properly, then there's a lot of hidden gems there. And at the same time, when I go through, I'd always do a background check before I talk with somebody on LinkedIn. And sometimes I just see things, I'm like, okay. And, you can be creative with your job title, but there's a limit to how big you can make yourself, and like, yeah, because LinkedIn will not limit you. You can put your own title there.
You can anything is possible on LinkedIn. Yeah. So you have to be careful as well, because you don't want to send the wrong message, and you don't want to say that you're this big CEO of this huge company if you're not, of course. But yeah, I mean, you can, if you're a recruiter, you can put yourself as a purple squirrel hunter if you really want to. You know, there's all of these possibilities. Yeah,
exactly. But it's definitely a great tool to have. And personally, I think you will also 100% agree with that. That if LinkedIn would disappear tomorrow, we will be very sad.
Don't ever mention those words.
Maybe even more than sad.
Yeah, we would be mortified. I mean, I don't know what we'd do, because in the UK we have job boards. You know, we have lots of them, and they're very, very good, because anyone who's looking for a job on LinkedIn typically puts their CV on a job board. Here, not so much, because especially when we're focusing on technology, there isn't really a job board that does focus on technology. Yeah. So for us, we can't really utilize job boards at all, and especially because if you're overseas, you're not going to be on a local job board anyway, and there isn't a global job board, if you can believe. Huge gap in the market for somebody. So yeah, if LinkedIn was to go, how would we access talent? How? There isn't. I don't think there is a way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you will go back to the old days, but that doesn't mean that that's an improvement. But it's not going to go away. It's still there, so we don't have to think about that. And also for people that are maybe want to start in their journey for setting up their own company, or people that already are having their own company, what kind of advice would you give them that can help others, or a piece of advice that you found out in business yourself, where you were like, okay, I think this is useful to share with other people?
Yeah, I think definitely, it sounds so cheesy, but just honesty and transparency. I couldn't stand it when working for companies and there was just, you know, a kind of them and me attitude, and they would be very kind of secretive with things. So honesty and transparency is super important. But like I've said before a couple of times now, just retention and focusing on the staff that you do have rather than trying to grow either too much or too quickly. Because, you know, as I said before, if you don't have retention, then you don't have growth. And if you do have growth, it's superficial growth. It's not, you know, actual growth. So those two things, and just work hard, lead by example, and just do things what you wish someone would have done for you, I think are the only bits of advice that I could give at this point, other than everything that I've said. Oh, and use LinkedIn, of course.
Yes, and when we highlight the part of retention, how damaging is it for a company if they lose their top performers?
Well, imagine that your top performer has access to all of your top performing clients. And obviously within everybody's contract, you have a clause, you know, competitive clause and everything like that. But, you know, there are ways around that, whether they relocate or whatever it may be. So imagine using not only your top performer, but potentially your top clients. And if that top performer is managing a team, imagine if then that team has got no direction. So not only are you using your top performer, you've got a demotivated team with no direction. So it could just have like a domino effect of negativity. So just compensating people fairly, but also treating them well is super important, not only to your top performers, but to everybody, whether it be the receptionist to the MD. You know, treating everybody equally and fair is crucial to business success.
Yes, it seems so easy, but so often you see out there that these mistakes are being made and these red flags are being ignored.
But if you look at the staff's turnover, they're probably the companies with the highest amount of turnover. And look, no one wants to work for a company that has a high turnover because, you know, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be the next person that's walking out of that door.
Yeah, that's what can people do to get a better understanding of what they're walking into before they accept a job, before they join a company?
So a lot of the time, I would recommend people speaking to people that are already there. So for example, we just placed one person within a leading bank, and then we'd placed, you know, a number of other people within the same bank. So we connected them to speak, so they could actually have conversations with people that were there, so they could find out, you know, is the job that they're selling me the actual job? And luckily in this case it was. So there's that, and there's also Glassdoor, which is a review system for companies where you can see other employees' recommendations and reviews on there. So just networking in, speaking to people that are currently there and looking at Glassdoor. Because don't forget that companies in an interview are always going to tell you what you want to hear. And, you know, they're not always going to be honest with you. Not saying that that happens all the time, but most of the time. So yeah, do your homework. Yeah, is all I would say.
Yeah, and what about companies that are looking for talent, that want to hire, you know, those good people? What tips do you have for them to help them out?
Yeah, if they don't come via an agency, because obviously we have various different things that we do. So for example, every single candidate that we speak to has 2 interviews here with the team. We typically have a HR interview and then a tech interview before shortlisting to the client. After that, we then do reference checks. So if a candidate gets to offer stage, we conduct 2 or 3 references from companies that they've worked with. So they're guaranteed then. I mean, nothing's a guarantee, but it's a pretty safe option. So if candidates aren't coming through an agency, they should always reference check. Ask for 2 or 3 of their references that they can contact, just to make sure, you know, what they're saying on their CV and what they're saying in the interview reflects within the reality.
Okay, yeah, so these are great tips for if you're looking for a job or if you want to hire talent. To end this podcast, I just want to ask you, is there anything you want to share with the audience which I have not brought up or you have not brought up, or maybe you want to give a sneak peek on what is next?
Exciting. So I have a really exciting announcement coming up. Unfortunately, I can't tell you today. I can tell you I'm going to a photo shoot for a publication literally straight after this, and then as soon as I've done that, I can tell you. So literally in a couple of days, I'll be able to reveal that information. And I guess I've got a big birthday coming up soon, so just preparing for that new milestone of my life. And yeah, just growing and retaining, and I've got some, super exciting publications coming out. My first publication, so this is my first podcast, and then first publications, and then it's going to grow from there. So yeah, wait and see.
Well, Molly, I'm so glad, I'm so grateful that I could have you here on your first podcast where you are speaking. I'm sure there will be more in the future.
Hopefully not. I'd never rule it out, but not today.
And for the people listening, well, you heard the story of Molly Powell and her great company, Pink Camel Recruitment and Pink Camel Gifts. You can check out their website or her LinkedIn for more information. Thank you, Molly, so much for coming here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and it hasn't been that bad, actually.
That's great to hear. And maybe you'll come back one time.
No.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. So, round of applause. Yay!
Yay, Molly, you did it. See,
Second